we'd like to welcome Will Zalatoris to the interview room here at the Sentry Tournament of Champions. Will, you got your first PGA Tour victory at the FedEx St. Jude Championship. They allowed you to get here. Just kind of talk about what it's like to be starting your year off at the Sentry Tournament of Champions, Maui, the course, all of that good stuff.
Yeah, it's been a interesting 4 months to say the least since Memphis, but yeah, a beautiful place. You know, this is probably the tournament that I watched the most growing up, just given the fact that you're watching it at night back home. So pretty cool seeing some of the holes for the first time, after all the years of watching it on TV. So a lot of fun, and obviously pretty happy to be here, given the win, and then the last 3 months of being off.
Yeah, and then how were the holidays? You got married?
I did. Yeah, it was great. Caitlin and I got married in December, and it kind of feels like we've been married for a while, so we've been together for so long. So but it was a lot of fun, great celebration.
Awesome, and with that, we'll open up to questions. Ready first? Alan Shipnuck.
Will, when you're on the outside looking in at this tournament, you're playing well, you're having success, but you just can't quite kick down the door. I mean, how satisfying is it to finally be here and be part of this?
Yeah, it's such a cool spot. I think I've just been so close so many times, and so I think if anything, after having the time off, it's kind of hard to remind myself of all the second places. But yeah, it's pretty cool to be with all the all the champions from this past year, and then obviously the guys who made it to East Lake as well. So this is the best of the best.
I mean, it's exclusive, right? There's only 30 guys at the Tour Championship, but this is otherwise the smallest gathering you have all year. So you feel like you're finally in the club.
Yeah, a little bit. I mean, we see each other a lot throughout the year, but it's kind of fun, this week playing practice rounds and carts and kind of roaming around with the boys, and we're all making jokes about maybe being a little rusty. So, but yeah, I mean, like I said, this is the best of the best. So, it's fun being here with playing against the best competition in the world.
How are you balancing just having fun and easing into the season versus this is a huge tournament and there's a lot at stake?
Yeah, I think coming off an injury, I think it's mainly just kind of getting my feet wet again. I feel really good with everything. I had a couple of really great sessions at home. I learned a lot about my body, probably more than I think I ever wanted to. And but speed's the same. Everything feels really good, and so just keep doing what we're doing, and let the next one get in the way.
Doug Ferguson, Associated Press.
Deepest apologies for having missed your introduction. Unless you already did this, can you kind of recap exactly what you learned about your body in terms of what was wrong, how you fixed it, and do you have any issues going forward?
Yeah, no, I spent some time with Greg Rose, or Dr. Greg Rose at TPI. We basically kind of went through a whole assessment of seeing where I'm at, and it was really, I think, keeping longevity in mind as opposed to anything else. It's hard when you're the number one player strokes gained tee to green this past year, or at least approach, to want to go in and say, hey, you need to make some changes. So of course, whenever we maybe mention something that you might want to change, I think all of us kind of had some red flags go up. But I think the big thing for me is we spent a lot of time understanding the pressures of my golf swing and understanding how I push off my right side. And I do it later than a lot of guys, so what that does for someone with a lot of side bend is that gets my right hip high and my spine's tilted back, and so as Dr. Rose said, no wonder I had a back issue. But it's a good thing that it was just a motor pattern as opposed to something that was structurally wrong, because that's something that you can fix just like that. I was given a 12-week recovery period, and I probably, if I needed to push it, I probably could have made it 9, but I don't think anyone's ever complained about taking too long coming back from injury. So my speed is actually, I'm playing a shorter driver, about 1.25 inches, but I've actually got the exact same speed. So eventually, once I go back to the 46, I'll actually be net up speed once I go back to my original gamer.
Why are you at a shorter driver?
It just helps with turning around the corner a little bit. It's having the longer lever makes a wider arc, so missing shots out to the right. So giving me a little bit more time helps bring shots back to online.
And I'm sorry, but I guess one thing, is it not structural? You said motor.
Just more of a motor pattern than anything. Like I said, the right hip got a little high with side bend. Side bend is really not a bad thing as long as you do it right, and I just wasn't doing it correctly. And so really just there's just a few things here or there that I needed to change. Really just its setup. I'm not really focused on anything when it comes to how I do it in the golf swing. Just, even though it is a motor pattern thing, it's how I set up at address is how I'll fix that.
Dan Rappaport.
I was just going to ask what you're changing in your actual golf swing or preparation to account for the new information that you have, but it sounds...
Adam Shupak, Golf Week.
Did you ever have any back trouble before, or did this come out of the blue?
I had July of 21. I had an issue there, but that was muscular, not structural. So I think, this one was really what I was told it was out of the blue. I did a pretty deep dive with Damon, my trainer, with Dr. Rose, Dr. Duffy. I mean, we've looked at everything that I was doing to make sure I was doing the right things, and we were checking all the boxes, and it was just strictly a motor pattern thing, which is kind of a good thing and a bad thing, because it's, when I was hitting the ball the way that I was, it's hard to want to change anything, but at the same time, I actually saw some benefits. I'm more efficient in my golf swing, so that's why my speed is the same actually with the shorter driver. It's just because of the efficiency now of how I push into a golf ball.
When did you resume playing, and how much have you played since then?
December 1st, I think, was the first day I was cleared for full activity, and really have just been doing as much as I can since then.
Pick up any new hobbies or learn to speak a language?
Yeah, I found the end of Netflix. So no, we've been pretty busy at home. I mean, obviously getting married, and then I've got a dog at home now, so it's been fun.
Anything else for Will?
I mean, for us, we're going to make a big deal about this is the start of a new era on the PGA Tour and the elevated events and the whole new schedule and all that. I mean, do you feel any of that? Does it feel different what you're embarking on this season?
It's yes and no, because it's already kind of been that way. I think we're really, you've kind of, like I was talking with some of the guys earlier, it's like there's some guys some of my friends that I only saw 2 or 3 times last year. And so part of it is because of playing the schedule that I was playing. You're kind of already playing in elevated events because we just call them invitationals. I mean, so now we have a series of elevated events where now you're going to have the same guys show up for 20 events a year. And I think really it's just trying to get, I know you guys have probably heard this a million times, but getting the top guys to show up together at the same time. Why does F1 work? Well, Lewis Hamilton's going to be there at every single race, so is Max Verstappen. And so now when you have these elevated events, you know that the top guys are going to be there. And so as opposed to maybe, one guy plays one event in the fall that, maybe you would almost be surprised that they're playing. Well, now we have a structure to where, these guys are going to be here this many times, and they need to be here, one time in the fall, give or take. So I think in reality, it doesn't even, my schedule doesn't change it at all, actually. It's just kind of a rebrand or a rename, however you want to look at it.
Talking about your friends, you didn't see very much, and there's still another 30 tour events out there that don't have that elevated stature. They're not going to get a lot of the stars. Do you worry about the viability of those tournaments? And is there going to be another tour for your buddies to play?
I wouldn't put it as not allowed to play. I would put it more in the sense of our premier events have our premier players, and we're at a limited field, and you have your regular tour events, and we need to play 3 of them. So you're going to see us at plenty of the other events. And so I think, if anything, you're just trying to make sure that our top guys, you're seeing as much as possible together, because when you have 47 events, you want to be careful of maybe watering down the product. And now we're just making sure that our product is as strong as possible. And quite frankly, no, I'm not worried about these other events, worrying about their viability or whatever it is going forward. I mean, if you look at our title sponsors going forward, next year we have the same amount as we've had in other years, and we're locked in for a pretty long time with a lot of the other ones. So like I said, I think having these top guys, show up together is only going to make our product better as a whole.
Time for a couple more.
Do you anticipate you'll skip any of the elevated events?
I don't think so. I think I got to listen to my body this year. I don't plan on skipping any of them. I think, with being in the room in Delaware, being on the pack, I think me skipping an event is only going to be because of health-related issues than it will be anything else. Because why would sorry to sound like a little ignorant here, but why would I turn down any of the 9 events where we're playing for $20 million against the best players in the world? When I'm at home, I'd be playing golf anyway, so I might as well play it against some of the best players in the world.
Is there anything you have to do warming up with stretching differently than, is it a different process now, getting ready to play?
More post-hab work for sure. Pre-round stuff, a lot of the same. Like I said, because we had checked all the boxes in terms of the pre-round, what I do in the gym with the activations, but the after, if I'm going to play as much as I'd like to play, I need to make sure that, maybe my hips don't get out of line type thing. So a lot of work after I'm done with a round is going to be crucial to make sure that I'm able to play, 4 or 5 weeks in a row like I like to.
We'll wrap up with Doug.
Is there possibly a scenario where if all the top guys are playing all the same tournaments that it gets old? Or it loses the amount of buzz that it has maybe in the first time you go around. This becomes the new norm, and it's.
I see your point.
It's not a point.
I see. No, I see your point. But if you're sick of the top guys playing against each other, then maybe go watch something else. Like, you know what I mean? I think that's what makes. The majors so much fun is you look up on a leaderboard and typically you've got a lot of the top, or leaderboard at majors or leaderboards in the playoffs or whatever. Now instead of having them just stuck in 4 weeks, 5 weeks, whatever it is, now you're going to have it spread out throughout the year. I think there's more implications for each week now, which I think if anything will now make people be incentivized to watch more because there's going to be more at stake in the fall going forward. I mean, that's something that why we went to a wraparound season. So obviously we were going away from that, but now these guys are going to be fighting to obviously plan for, whatever it may be, these elevated events going forward, if you will. So that's where I think every week now has an implication going forward. And now if you have every week has an implication and now you have more of the top guys together, this is the best way we can promote our product.
I wouldn't call it a point. I think I was reaching, actually, Will, if I'm being honest. But what made me think of it, as you brought up the majors, is we have these moments where all the top guys, and it's cool. And I'm just thinking aloud here in terms of how much separation you would get from guys being there week after week after week, 17, 18 times a year. So better than the alternative.
Yeah, I mean, if you get sick of watching football, I mean, they got 18 weeks too. It's the same thing. But we're spread out.
Oh.
Yeah. I mean, 18 now, however many they're playing now. But like I said, I think this is a really good thing for us going forward because as long as we can get the top guys playing together, we're going to have our best product. If you're not allowing our top players to play against each other, then all of a sudden, you're going to get to the end of the year, and I understand what you mean by there could be some implications of, hey, these guys are finally going head to head. Well, we're going to give that to you January through August.
Just because you said that, I forgot what I was going to say. Going forward, because this is so critical, getting to 24, is the most critical part in your mind making sure that the people who aren't the top players yet have a chance to become that?
Yeah, you're talking to one that 2 years ago, I don't think anyone had heard of me. So, of course, I mean, as long as we keep our avenue of college guys, Corn Ferry guys who are coming up the ranks all the way through, like I was up playing off sponsors' invites, keep the pipeline going. I mean, this is what makes us so great is it's a natural-born competition. I mean, any one of you guys can go Monday and try to beat one of us. So that's what makes this tour so great is any week anybody can win. And having 150 guys every single week where there's a chance to win, that's what got me here. So I don't ever want that to change.
Last one for me, Rachel.
Thanks, Doug.
I think we've got just one guy, maybe two this week. Ryan Brim would be one of them, who's playing in his first tournament that doesn't have a cut. And I'm just trying to think if you recall, what was the first for you when you got on tour? Sure, it was a playoff event. Or
It was the match play, which I got out very quickly.
Still didn't make it to the weekend.
Luckily, there was a tee time on Saturday, I think. No, it started on Wednesday, so no, I didn't make it to Saturday.
What was your first stroke play? No cut. Was that cool at all, if you can recall?
WGC workday at Concession, and I was week number 6 of 7. So I was glad that I had a tee time that weekend.
All right.
Yeah.
Appreciate the time as
Thank
always.
you.